Bob Lanier was a very versatile basketball player, could score in a lot of different ways. Jump shot, face up, driving. He was a very versatile scorer. And he didn't just get the job done with scoring, he could block shots, he could pass really well for a big man, he got rebounds. Lanier was just a very complete basketball player. It's kind of sad that a player like Lanier was never able to lead the Pistons to a championship. And for the most part, the Pistons weren't really that good during the Bob Lanier era. But it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, let's go ahead and break down his career and how his production stacks up to other players that have played for the Pistons. The Pistons didn't really have that much success during the Lanier era, but they were just really rough before he got to the Pistons. Prior to Lanier being drafted by Detroit, the Pistons had 0 winning records as the Detroit Pistons. They had some during the Fort Wayne days, but as the Detroit Pistons, they had 0 winning records. And the Pistons went 8 straight seasons without a playoff series win prior to Lanier being drafted. Then in comes Lanier. He's able to have a little bit of success. It wasn't a lot, but it was a little bit. The Pistons had 3 winning seasons during the Bob Lanier era. And it's also worth noting that the Pistons were 31-51 prior to Lanier being drafted. Then Lanier got it all the way up to 45-37 in one season. And then he led the Pistons to a playoff series win in 1976. And that was their first playoff series win since 1962 when he did that. So he didn't elevate the Pistons the way Isaiah Thomas did, but he absolutely elevated the organization. And like I keep saying, it's unfortunate that a player as good as he was never able to have the most team success during his run with Detroit. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of people that would argue that only 3 winning seasons, that's really not that impressive. Well, considering how rough it was for this franchise prior to Lanier coming here, that is an accomplishment, at least in my eyes. Lanier, as a member of the Detroit Pistons, scored 15,488 points, which is 3rd in franchise history. He collected 8,063 rebounds, which is 3rd in Pistons history. He recorded 3,681 defensive rebounds, which is 5th, and 1,380 offensive rebounds, which is also 5th. It should be noted that the NBA did not record rebounds as offensive or defensive during the earlier part of Lanier's career, so that's why the rebound numbers don't add up. But considering that the NBA didn't count defensive or offensive rebounds as singular stats for the earlier part of Lanier's career, that's impressive that he still managed to rank 5th in both categories. He had 859 blocks, which is 4th in Pistons history. And blocks were not recorded during the earlier part of Lanier's career. His 2,256 assists rank 1st among centers and forwards that played for the Detroit Pistons. Lanier was just a great offensive player. His 22.7 points per game ranked 1st in Pistons history. His 11.8 rebounds per game ranked 3rd in Pistons history. His 2 blocks per game ranked 2nd. And his 3.3 assists per game ranked 1st among centers and forwards who played a minimum of 2 seasons with the Detroit Pistons. Lanier's versatility is reflected very well in his production. He had 8 20, 10, and 3 seasons as a member of the Detroit Pistons, meaning it could be 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists, or 20 points, 10 assists, and 3 rebounds. That 20, 10, and 3 type of season is the most in Pistons history. Now, that 8 does include the season in which he got traded. He was averaging 20, 10, and 3 while on the Pistons. However, he did not average 20, 10, and 3 for the season. But I included the season he got traded and his averages with the Pistons. But even if we subtract the season in which he got traded, that 20, 10, and 3 type of season is top 7 all time. Not just in Pistons history, but in NBA history. Lanier had 6 20, 10, 3, and 1 seasons, meaning 20 points, 10 rebounds or assists, and 3 rebounds or assists, and 1 steal or 1 block. That type of season is the most in Pistons history. And again, if I subtract the season he got traded, then he would still be top 4 all time, not just in Pistons history, but all of NBA history. Now, when we get to the games, that includes playoff games as well. He had 8 5x4 games, which is 2nd in Pistons history, meaning that you just have to record 5 of 4 of the 5 major stats. So 5 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, and 5 steals or blocks, and just any of that, anything along those lines. But I'm sure most of you basketball fans know what I mean. His 119 double-doubles rank 8th in Pistons history. His 41 2020 games are top 2 in Pistons history. He's tied with Andre Drummond. His 4 10-assist games are the most among Pistons forwards and centers. Now, Lanier didn't exactly have a lot of playoff success because he only won 1 playoff series, but it wasn't really all on him. In every single one of Lanier's playoff appearances with the Pistons, he led the team in points, rebounds, and blocks. So they didn't have that much playoff success during the Bob Lanier era, but it wasn't all on Bob Lanier. Honestly, with this type of production, it's just unfortunate. In the 1974 playoffs, he averaged 26.3 points per game, 15 rebounds per game, and 2 blocks per game. In the 1975 playoffs, he averaged 20.3 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 4 blocks. In the 1976 playoffs, Lanier averaged 26.1 points, 12.7 rebounds, 2.3 blocks. And in the 1977 playoffs, he averaged 28 points per game, 16.7 rebounds, and 2.3 blocks. And if we add all of this up, Lanier in the playoffs averaged 25.6 points per game, 13.8 rebounds, and 3.5 assists, along with 2.5 blocks. I don't really know what else to say. I don't know what more you would want a guy to do, but I guess it is what it is. Lanier was only able to win 1 playoff series during his time with the Pistons, but again, I guess it is what it is. It's just unfortunate. I've probably said this many times throughout the video, but it really is just so unfortunate that Lanier was never able to lead the Pistons any further because he was such a good player. He was a very productive player. He was a very versatile player. For some reason, it just never equated to playoff success. Even with his lack of playoff success, it should not take away from the greatness of Bob Lanier. He absolutely deserved to have his number retired by the Pistons, and he absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And he absolutely deserves consideration to be a top 10 Piston of all time. So that will be all for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.